Question. Kim, I appreciate your teachings. I would like to ask a question. From what I understand so far, the main objective of human life is the evolution of the level of consciousness, where apparently we can perceive whether a person is at an advanced level or not based on their integrity. For a person who already lives in integrity, cultivating noble virtues, even if sometimes this is done with effort, what else remains? Would it be possible that along with the pursuit of advancing levels of consciousness, the pursuit of happiness runs in parallel? For example, a genuinely good person who already has a well-established psyche in terms of cultivating wisdom and empathy, who is productive in their daily life, to what extent would it be detrimental for them to integrate habits that are normally seen as negative, such as taking a minimal puff of marijuana one day when they want to relax? Would this lower their level of consciousness, considering that it wouldn't change the way they interact with the world? The same applies to things like video games, movies, pornography, etc. Okay, so basically you could say the question is, if you're really striving on a spiritual path, if you have integrity, you treat other people well, you are living a good life, can you indulge in worldly pleasures? And I understand the question, and I would say that in a sense you could say at the lower levels of the path, if it's not overdone, it probably won't be detrimental to your spiritual growth, but it will definitely slow it down. And the reason for this is that everything we do in this world has a cost, has an effect. Every cause has an effect, right? Everything you do. It's like you're going into a store, and if you buy something, it's going to cost money. So you have your bank account where you have a certain amount of money. If you spend more money that's in the account, well, you could end up having nothing. Or if you spend, if you are trying to save for buying a big thing, but you keep buying small things, it's going to take longer before you have money for the big thing. I mean, it's just the only thing you need to change here is that on the spiritual path, it's not about money, it's about energy. Because you receive a certain amount of spiritual energy from your higher self, your I Am Presence. And there's a simple principle here. And Jesus actually described it 2,000 years ago. He gave this parable about a master is going away. He calls his 3 servants to him. He gave one person 10 talents, the other 5, the other 2. Then he goes away. When he comes back, he asks them, what have you done with the talents? And 2 had multiplied the talents, and 1 had buried them in the ground. And the 2 that had multiplied it received more. The 1 that had buried in the ground, it was taken away whatever he had. Because the whole principle of life is that as you are using the energy you receive from your I Am Presence in constructive pursuits, you receive more. When you use it in non-constructive pursuits, the energy is actually reduced. So I understand what the person is saying. If you're living a good life, you're not really harming anybody. Is it really going to detract you if you do something? Well, there's always a price. That's what I'm trying to say. And so you have to evaluate, is it worth it? And I know people who are doing that and they're thinking, yeah, I can smoke pot and still grow spiritually. And I would say that this depends very much on what you are wanting to do, because some things have a higher cost than others. So video games, probably not the worst, right? Unless you really overdo it and you really become addicted to video games. Movies, probably not the worst either, but there are certainly some movies that will cost you more on the energy. Horror movies, and those kind of things. Pornography, I just don't see how there can be a positive energy balance out of engaging in that. The same thing with marijuana or other drugs. I mean, it's going to have a cost that's definitely going to slow down your progress. I mean, there's, in my mind, no question about it. You can, of course, make yourself believe that, it's not so bad. But I would say, if you're smoking pot to relax, I mean, the whole idea of walking the spiritual path is you come to a point where you have so much control over your mind that you can relax through the powers of the mind alone. That's what meditation and mindfulness is all about. What the heck you need to smoke something for to relax? If you're really serious about spiritual growth, you need to learn to relax through the powers of the mind. You don't need this other stuff. So I'm just trying to say here that there's a beginning level of the path, right, where people are, they can be quite eager, they can have found a spiritual movement, they're really studying it, they're practicing spiritual techniques, but they haven't really made a firm commitment to spiritual growth. It's like, perhaps you could say they haven't really grasped how deep of a transformation you're going through on the spiritual path. And therefore it can seem like all of these things are okay, they're not so bad. But when you come to a point where you really grasp what the spiritual path is about, and you really make a commitment, in my experience, having observed many people, the desire to do these things just fades away. It's not that you have to fight it, it's not that you have to suppress it. Maybe people have to suppress it for a while, but there's a point where it just fades away. You wouldn't even think of doing it because you realize it's just not compatible with maximum growth on the path. So again, you could say, if you're not really committed, if you're not really concerned about how quickly you advance on the spiritual path, you can do all kinds of things. And if you're not hurting other people with it, well, maybe it's not so bad. I can't quite see how watching pornography cannot hurt other people because somebody was exploited for making it. And so, you see what I'm saying? There's karma and the whole drugs trace, there's so much crime involved in this that, again, how can you not make karma by perpetuating this? And so I think you have to be pretty careful about it. But what I'm saying is that there comes a point on the spiritual path where you just have to ask yourself a question. Do I really want results? Or is spirituality more a form of entertainment? Am I really committed to spiritual growth? And if you are, you don't want, in other words, you want a steady upward growth then. You don't want go up a little bit, go down a little bit, go up a little bit, go down a little bit. That's not what you want, right? So it's like this old saying that you take one step forward and you slide 2 steps backwards. Well, when you make a commitment to spiritual growth, you don't want that. You want to just go forward. And you want to keep the progress you've made and not backslide. So I don't know what else I can say to it. I'm not the kind of person, a spiritual teacher, who says, you have to follow this strict rule and discipline yourself to do this. For me, it's a matter of just looking at, a cost-benefit analysis. Everything has a cost in terms of energy. You want to make a spiritual progress, you need as much energy as possible devoted to that purpose. You want to minimize where your energy goes into things that really don't contribute to your growth. And that becomes, you're not forcing yourself, you're just simply saying, hey, this is what I want to do, and I'm taking the consequence.